built it late at night when no one watched, with hands that knew the cost of caring too much. Not because I had to, because I chose to leave something beautiful inside. 誰かがいつか見つけてくれると信じていた。 If you are reading this, それはあなた。
Part 4. What Love Leaves Behind. Chapter 13. The Cost of Staying. Summer arrived heavy and humid, the kind of Tokyo heat that made the whole city shimmer at its edges. Cicadas screaming their relentless chorus from every tree along the streets below. And with it came a change in Kenji that Aiko noticed before she understood. The way one notices a familiar song being played slightly out of tune before identifying exactly which note is wrong. He was there less, not absent exactly, but thinner somehow, present one moment and strangely faded the next, like a radio signal losing its station the further you drove from the tower, his voice occasionally dropping to something barely above a whisper for no reason she could identify, his outline sometimes seeming to waver at the edges when the office lights caught him at certain angles.
You're doing it again, flickering. Like you're not entirely here, like I'm watching you through water.
I feel it too. I think I've been feeling it for a few weeks now, if I'm honest with myself, which I haven't entirely been, because admitting it out loud makes it real in a way I wasn't ready for.
What does that mean? Kenji, what is happening to you? Tell me everything, don't soften it for my sake.
I think the unfinished thing is finishing, Aiko. I think you finished it, just by being here, by listening the way you have, by loving me the way you have, despite every reason not to.
No, don't say that like it's a good thing, like it's supposed to make me happy. You make it sound like dying again, like I'm losing you twice.
Listen to me, please. I have spent 3 years as an echo of a conversation I never got to have, repeating the same lonely circuit through this building, night after night, with no one to talk to, no one who could even see me long enough to ask my name. And then I got to have it, with you, every night, for months now. I got to say everything I never said to anyone, every half-formed thought I'd been carrying since I was a boy, watching my mother fall asleep at the kitchen table. I got to be understood, completely, by someone whose mind moved like mine, who saw the same beauty I saw in broken things made whole.
His voice grew thick.
I think that's exactly the kind of unfinished business that lets a person finally rest. I think I got the rarest gift a person can get, a chance to finish the story properly, instead of being cut off mid-sentence forever.
I don't want you to rest if resting means leaving me. I want you to stay. Selfishly, completely, against every rule of decency or fairness. I want you to stay exactly as you are, flickering and impossible, and mine.
I know, God, I know. And there's a part of me, the most stubborn, human part of me, the part that never stopped wanting an ordinary life, that wants exactly the same thing. But Aiko, look at me. Really look at me, the way you look at a piece of code when you're trying to understand its true shape.
She did, and for the first time, she let herself see clearly what she'd been refusing to see for weeks. The way the office light seemed to pass faintly through him near the edges, the way his outline had begun, almost imperceptibly, to soften like a photograph left too long in the sun, the colors of him very slightly less saturated than they had been even a month ago.
You're fading.
I'm finishing. There's a difference, even if it doesn't feel like one tonight, even if from where you're standing it probably looks exactly the same.
Chapter 14. Reiko's Vigil. Reiko found her crying in the stairwell 2 nights later, knees drawn to her chest, sitting on the cold concrete steps in the particular collapse of a person who has been holding herself together by sheer professional habit and has finally run out of habit to hold. Her badge still clutched in one hand, as though she'd forgotten she was holding it.
How much time does he have left, do you think? You don't have to answer if you don't know.
I don't know, days, weeks, maybe. He doesn't know either. He says it doesn't work like a countdown, it works like a tide going out. You only notice how far it's gone when you look back at the shore and realize how much sand is suddenly visible that wasn't before.
May I tell you something I've never told anyone? Not even Kenji, when I used to hear him in the dark and pretend I hadn't. When I'd walk past the server room with my eyes fixed straight ahead like a coward.
Please, I think we're past the point of keeping secrets from each other, Sato-san.
When he died, I blamed myself for a long time. Longer than was probably healthy. Longer than my husband ever understood. No matter how many times I tried to explain it to him. I was the one who pushed the emotion model deadline that quarter. I was the one who told the team, half joking, in a meeting that probably lasted 10 minutes and that I have replayed in my head 1,000 times since, that anyone who solved the buffer problem could go home early. Knowing full well Kenji would stay until 2 in the morning chasing it, just to prove he could, because that's who he was, relentless about the work he loved.
Her voice cracked. 3 years of guilt finally finding a place to land after being carried alone for so long.
I have spent 3 years grieving a man I hoped keep here, in some unfinished, suffering form, simply by never having the courage to tell him I was sorry. By letting my own fear keep me from the one conversation that might have let him rest years ago.
Tell him now. Sato-san, tell him now, while there's still time. I think that's exactly the kind of thing that might help him rest, if rest is really what's happening, if that's truly what all of this has been leading toward.
I think you might be right. I think I've been almost as afraid of finishing this as he has, in my own way. Afraid that if I finally said it and it didn't help, I'd have to accept there was nothing left I could have done differently.
Chapter 15. Everything We Never Said. The night Reiko finally spoke to him, Aiko stood a respectful distance away in the dim hallway, watching two people who had loved Kenji Mori in entirely different ways. One as a mentor watching a brilliant young engineer grow into himself. One as a woman who had fallen impossibly, irrevocably in love with whatever remained of him. Finally say the things 3 years of silence had kept buried.
I am so sorry, Kenji. For the deadline, for the joke about going home early, for every night since then that I was too much of a coward to walk back into this building after dark and simply tell you that the company, this whole division, exists because of what you built, and that none of it was worth what it cost you, what it cost your mother, what it's cost everyone who loved you.
Sato-san, you're shaking. You don't have to do this standing up. Here, sit, please.
I have been shaking for 3 years. I think if I sit down now, I might not get back up. Might just stay here until morning, trying to find the words I should have found years ago.
It was never your fault. I want you to hear that clearly, the way I never got the chance to say it before, the way I should have found some way to tell you, even from wherever I've been these past 3 years. I crossed that street because I was excited, because I just solved a problem I'd been chasing for weeks, because I was thinking about getting home to tell my mother the good news, not because of any deadline, any joke, anything you did or said in some meeting that has clearly haunted you far longer than it deserved to. You gave me 6 years of work I loved, Sato-san. You gave me a team, a purpose, a reason to be proud of what I built every single day. A reason to leap out of bed most mornings, excited about whatever problem waited for me. Please, please let that be the thing you remember, instead of the last 5 minutes of something that was never within your control to begin with. That no amount of different wording in some throwaway joke could have prevented.
Thank you, Kenji. I needed to hear that more than I think I've ever needed anything in my entire career. In my entire life, if I'm honest.
Thank you for finally saying it, for finding the courage tonight that took 3 years to gather. I think...
He paused, looking down at his own hands, as though noticing for the first time how translucent they had become beneath the hallway light, the overhead fluorescence visible faintly through his fingers in a way that made Aiko's breath catch where she stood watching.
I think that was one of the last things I needed too. I didn't realize how much weight I was still carrying from that, even now, even after everything.
Chapter 16. The Last Night. Aiko knew, the moment she walked onto the 9th floor that final evening, that something had shifted irreversibly. The air itself feeling different, lighter somehow, like a held breath finally beginning to release. The whole floor charged with a quiet she couldn't quite name, but recognized instinctively as significant. Kenji was waiting by the window where she'd first seen the sakura petals fall, 3 months and a lifetime ago, back when she'd been new enough to the building that she still got lost on her way to the elevator. He looked that night more solid than he had in weeks, as if the universe had granted him one last, full measure of presence before the final letting go. His edges sharp and clear against the city lights beyond the glass, his eyes brighter than she'd seen them in days.
You came.
Did you think I wouldn't? I would have come, even if I'd had to crawl here.
I hoped you would. I needed to see you, one more time, while I could still be seen clearly, while there was still enough of me left to be properly looked at.
Please don't talk like this is goodbye. We can find more time, we can call a priest, a researcher, someone who studies this kind of thing. There has to be something.
Aiko, my love, look at what we built together. Not just the model, though God, that mattered too, more than you know, more than I think either of us fully understood while we were building it. Look at what you gave me. 3 months ago I was an echo, repeating the same lonely circuit through an empty building, waiting for a conversation I didn't even remember I was waiting for. Going through the motions of a life I no longer had any real claim to. And then you came, and you listened, and you understood, and you loved me anyway, knowing exactly what I was once you finally learned the truth. You didn't just finish my unfinished business, Aiko. You gave me an ending I could be at peace with, a story that resolves instead of simply stopping. Do you understand what a gift that is? What an enormous, undeserved gift.
I don't want to give you peace if it means losing you. I want you here. I want mornings I'm never going to get, I want years I'm never going to have, I want all of it, selfishly, and I don't care if that's wrong, if it's unfair to ask, if it's the kind of want that good people aren't supposed to admit to.
It's not wrong. It's exactly how I feel too, every part of it. But Aiko, listen to me please, because I need you to carry this after I'm gone, and I need you to actually believe it, not just hear it. Love isn't measured in the years you get. It's measured in how completely you were seen, and how completely you saw someone else, in whatever time you were given, however brief or strange the circumstances. We had 3 months that were more real, more whole, than some people get in 50 years of marriage, than my own parents got in 20 years together, before my father simply walked away one Tuesday without explanation. That's not a tragedy, Aiko. That's a miracle that happened to have a short ending, and I would not trade it, would not trade a single night of it, even knowing exactly how it ends.
How am I supposed to keep living after this? How do I go back to a normal life, normal love, knowing what this felt like, knowing nothing ordinary will ever measure up?
You live exactly the way you've always lived, fully, fiercely, refusing to let uncertainty stop you from building something beautiful, the same way you refuse to let the strangeness of what I am stop you from loving me anyway. You finish the emotion model. You let it carry a piece of what we built into the world, so some small part of this, of us, keeps listening to people who need to be heard, long after tonight, long after I'm gone, and you're the only one who remembers exactly how it started. And someday, not soon, I don't expect soon, and I would never ask you to rush it, would never want you to feel obligated to some timeline of grief. But someday, when you're ready, you let yourself love again, in daylight, with someone who can hold your hand at your mother's table and grow old beside you, who can give you the ordinary, mortal, beautiful life I never got the chance to offer you. I want that for you. I have wanted that for you since the very first night I leaned against that doorway and decided I couldn't stay away from you, even though some part of me already knew exactly how unfair it was to let myself fall for you.
I don't know how to want that, not yet. Maybe not for a long time.
Not yet, that's all right. Not yet is allowed to be true for a long time, before it becomes someday. There's no deadline on this, no quarterly target you have to hit. Take exactly as long as you need.
He reached for her hand one final time, and for one impossible, perfect moment, the contact held. Solid, warm, entirely real, as though death itself had granted one last exception to its own rules out of sheer respect for what they'd built, for the 3 months that had somehow outweighed 3 years of careful, lonely waiting.
Thank you for seeing me, Aiko Tanaka. Thank you for staying long enough to hear the rest of what I never got to say, for not running the way anyone reasonable might have run.
Thank you for waiting. For 3 years, in the dark, alone, thank you for waiting long enough for me to find you, for not giving up on whatever stubborn hope kept you here.
I love you. I will have loved you, in whatever way the universe lets that kind of love persist, for as long as anything of me persists at all, in whatever form that takes.
I love you too. Always. However long that turns out to mean, in whatever years I have left to mean it.
The warmth beneath her fingers faded slowly, gently, like morning fog lifting off the Sumida River, not torn away, but released, complete, the way a held note finally resolves into silence at the natural end of a song. When she opened her eyes, the space where he had stood held only the soft gray light of a Tokyo dawn beginning to break across the window, and the small, yellowed card still taped to the cubicle wall beside her desk, the words on it somehow steadier, somehow more permanent than they had ever seemed before, as though they had simply been waiting, all along, for someone to finally understand them completely. Code is just another language for saying, I care. Chapter 17. What Remains. 6 months later, Aiko stood at the south gate of Yoyogi Park during the first real week of cherry blossom season, a small potted sapling cradled in her arms, a young sakura tree she had arranged, with considerable bureaucratic effort and several visits to the Parks Department that tested even her considerable patience, to have planted near the bench Kenji had once described to her in such loving detail, the one half hidden behind an old maple where his mother used to take him every spring. Reiko stood beside her, along with 3 other engineers from the Heart Systems team. Sano, who had finally explained why he always went quiet about the desk by the window. Watanabe and Kobayashi, who had quietly admitted, once the truth came out, that they'd long suspected something the company never officially acknowledged. All of whom had eventually learned some version of the truth, in the careful, trusting way truths get shared among people who have decided to believe each other rather than dismiss what doesn't fit easily into ordinary explanation.
He used to say this was his favorite place in the city. That you could sit here at golden hour and watch the petals fall, like the whole world was being gentle with you, just for a few minutes.
I never got to come here with him, not the way he wanted, not walking together under the blossoms, like he used to with his mother. So I thought maybe I could bring a small piece of here to him instead, plant something that would keep blooming long after all of us are gone too.
He would have loved this, Tanaka-san. He would have loved you for thinking of it, for going through all that paperwork, just to make it happen.
The parks department thought I was insane. I had to explain 4 separate times why I wanted this specific spot and not one of the 12 other perfectly good spots they kept suggesting instead.
The emotion recognition model they had built together launched publicly that spring, under the modest internal name Kenji had chosen for it years before his death, and which Aiko had refused, despite considerable pressure from product marketing to rebrand it with something more commercially appealing, to ever change. Kotoba, the Japanese word for words, for the particular shape language takes when it's trying, however imperfectly, to carry feeling from one person into another, across whatever distance separates them. In its first 6 months, the model helped a suicide prevention hotline in Osaka identify crisis calls 11% more accurately than its previous system, catching the particular quality of a voice trying too hard to sound fine. It helped a children's hospital in Sapporo recognize when young patients were minimizing their pain out of fear of worrying their parents, flagging conversations for follow-up that older systems would have simply logged as routine. It helped in ways neither Kenji nor Aiko could have precisely predicted, but both would have recognized instantly as exactly the point, exactly what it had always been built to do. It helped people feel heard, in the small, specific, accumulating ways that eventually add up to something like being saved.
Alone now, kneeling to settle the young tree's roots into the soil after the others had said their goodbyes and drifted back toward the train station.
I finished it, Kenji. I finished both things.
A small, wet laugh.
You'd be insufferable about how well the validation metrics turned out, you know. You never let me hear the end of it. You'd bring it up at every single team meeting for the next year.
The wind moved through the gathering blossoms above her, the first few petals of the season drifting loose and turning slowly through the golden late afternoon light. Gentle, unhurried, the way only the most patient things in the world ever truly are. The way a held breath finally, fully released into something resembling peace.
Thank you for waiting for me. I hope, wherever you are now, that you finally get your mornings. The ones you always wanted to give me instead.
She stayed until the light went fully gold and then fully gray, watching petals fall the way he had once described them, like the whole world being gentle with someone, just for a few minutes. And when she finally stood to leave, brushing the soil from her knees, she did not look back. Not because she had stopped loving him, but because she had learned, in the strange and impossible classroom of loving a ghost, exactly what he had been trying to teach her all along. That some love doesn't end when the story does. It simply changes the language it speaks in and waits patiently, the way code waits to be run, the way a held note waits to resolve, for you to learn how to hear it. The end.
I wanted every layer to say that whoever held this mattered, that the extra hour was never wasted when it was spent on something true. 美しいもののだけが Only beautiful 残る価値があると思っていた If you are reading this それはあなたがたどり着いたから You finish what I started もう十分です That's enough just didn't know your name yet. If you are reading this, それはあなたがたどり着いたから。 You finished what I started. もう十分です。もう十分です。 That's enough. That was always enough.